Welcome to Harvey's Huddle. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jackson Harvey. Welcome to the AFC Divisional Round. What a great wildcard weekend we had. I am so happy with how it went out. Personally, 6-0 on the season. If you listen to my other episode, I've already mentioned that. On the season, on the postseason so far. But we've got a lot of football still to play. 4 games this weekend, 2 games in each conference. I'm going to cover the AFC in this episode. A lot of really great games that happened in the AFC. I told you that the AFC games were going to be the most competitive, and they really showed out that way. Baltimore, of course, shutting down Derrick Henry in Tennessee and taking that win from the Titans. Of course, that was kind of characterized and brought to a culmination of all of the rivalry that's been going on with these two teams, as Marcus Peters gets a game-clinching interception and they dance on the Titans logo. I personally don't like the action of disrespecting, quote-unquote, the other team, the home team's logo. But I do think the Titans had it coming. I do think that it was something that the Titans started, and they should be able to take it. They should be able to take that being shoved in their face because they lost. They're now sitting at home on the couch watching the divisional round. Buffalo squeaked out a win against Indianapolis. The Colts, obviously, they brought it to the Bills a lot more than I thought they'd be able to. We'll see what happens with Phillip Rivers and the Colts. It doesn't look like Carson Wentz is going to be leaving Philadelphia anymore with the firing of Doug Peterson. So, does Rivers come back for a season? Are we going to be stuck with Brissett again? Is he going to be able to get it done? Did he learn anything from Rivers? Who knows? Who knows what will happen with that? I hope Rivers sticks around for another season, but who knows? And then, of course, you had Cleveland. That was probably one of my favorite games out of the AFC, is the Browns scoring 28 points in the first quarter alone and really taking it to the Steelers. 4 interceptions by Big Ben. Who knows if he's going to retire or not? Of course, everyone's seen the video of him and Marquise Pouncey talking on the sidelines after the loss. Who knows what will happen with them? It looks like Pouncey is probably going to retire this season. But, man, those Steelers, one of the most overrated teams in the NFL, starting 11-0 and then going 1-5 to end the season. Just terrible. And I know a lot of fans love the TikToks that are going on with a lot of their wide receiver room, but I just loved seeing, and Juju Smith-Schuster had a great game, led the team in receiving, I believe, scored a touchdown or 2, but you lost to a bunch of nameless gray faces. So who knows where that puts you? It's not going to look good in free agency when you're giving the team so much billboard material. And that's the other thing, is you think the Steelers locker room would try their best to stop their players from giving the other team billboard material in the playoffs. The same thing happened when you played the Jaguars in 2017. They were already thinking to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. They were already thinking past the Jaguars. And the Jaguars came in and beat them in a very similar, scarily similar fashion that the Browns beat the Steelers in this past weekend. I don't know. It won't look good for Juju in free agency, because I don't know if the Steelers will pick him back up. If they do, great. I think he's a good wide receiver that is able to add a lot of really good potential and really good playmaking skills to the Steelers offense. So we'll see what happens with that. But now we've got 2 games taking place on the AFC side of things in this divisional weekend. First off, let's talk about Baltimore taking on Buffalo. Buffalo, like I said, they eked out a win against the Colts. Josh Allen went 26-35, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also added 54 rushing yards. He led the Bills in rushing with 54 rushing yards, and he had a rushing touchdown as well. That was a really weird game for the Bills. I don't think they were at their top offensive skill set per se, which is kind of scary because they looked good. Indianapolis had almost 10 more minutes of possession in that game, and Buffalo was only 22% on third down. Buffalo only ran 56 plays, and 35 of them were passing plays. Just crazy stats. And I think they looked good, but I think they took a step back, which is a good thing for them because I think they're going to be able to come out and really target those areas where they didn't do well at in terms of possession. You already saw it. They went out and signed Devonta Freeman to their practice squad, which if he's able to be ready on Sunday, watch out. This Bills rushing attack will be 10 times better. So I think it gives them a really good opportunity to improve on the offensive side of the ball where they've been lacking. Their defense looks solid, although they did allow 164 rushing yards between Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. This defense is a really good defense, however. Despite allowing a lot of rushing yards, they're a ball-hawking defense. What I saw on Sunday was a team that wasn't afraid to get in a receiver's face and was really exceptional on timing in terms of pass coverage in the secondary. They also allow the 5th lowest quarterback rating in the NFL in the regular season with 86.9. Despite that, they are going to need to force some turnovers against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is known to throw some interceptions in big-time spots, so they need to take advantage of some of his decision-making that lacks when it comes to the passing game. And they really need to tighten up their D-line. They need to try to limit this Ravens passing attack. On top of their defensive stats, they have not allowed a 40 or more yard rush this season. So keep that up. If you can do that against the Ravens, you're going to win this game because Lamar Jackson and the Ravens thrive on those big chunk runs. Keep that. Keep that in front of you. Keep the ball carrier in front of you, and they can win this game. Baltimore got off to a really rocky start in terms of everything against Tennessee. They were down 10-0, and then they, of course, scored, I believe, like 24 or 27 unanswered points. But they got the major monkey off their back. Lamar Jackson, he got the first playoff win of his career. Jackson went 17-24 for 179 yards in the air with an interception. He also added 136 rushing yards on the day with a rushing touchdown as well. Their offense, I think they're fairly one-sided. I don't think they're as one-sided as the Steelers' offense was. I think if you see my Twitter, they were the most one-dimensional team in the league. But this Ravens team is a close second. Their passing defense is one that I am so worried about. The Bills have been solid on defense through the air, and I think Lamar Jackson is going to be crucial here, especially if they're going to be playing in snowy conditions, which the forecast right now, it calls for some snow showers, and that could change in just like that when it comes to Buffalo. Their defense was amazing, though. Let's give a props to the Ravens defense. They crushed Derrick Henry and the Titans. They were only held to 40 yards, or Derrick Henry was only held to 40 yards on the ground in that game. I think if they can shut down Allen like they did to Tannehill, they're going to be able to win. However, some notable did not practice in terms of Wednesday. I don't know about Thursday or Friday because that's in the future, but on Wednesday, Matthew Judon and Marcus Peters did not practice. And so if they're not ready to go for game time, that is a very large concern on the defensive side of the ball. I really love this matchup, though. I think it's going to be one of the closest games this week. Of course, I really don't know what's going to happen. The Ravens did great against the Titans, but this Buffalo offense is much different than Tennessee. I think Josh Allen throws the ball unlike anyone else. He honestly looks a lot like Aaron Rodgers in his prime. And I think that if Devonta Freeman is ready to go, this offense is going to skyrocket. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be able to run all over this Bills defense. He should be able to run for about 150 yards or more. But I think this Ravens defense is going to be very busy, especially if Judon and Peters are out. Allen, he's going to throw 3 touchdowns. He's going to add a rushing touchdown in there. And I think Buffalo wins this one 37-28. And of course, the other game we've got going on is Cleveland taking on Kansas City. This is probably one of the most unsure predictions I have this week. It could go either way, in my opinion. So I think this has one of the biggest potentials for an upset in terms of my prediction. Cleveland won, I said it at the top of the show, in a solid showing against the quote-unquote best defense in the NFL. They put up 48 points against the Steelers. Their offense was almost flawless. Baker Mayfield went 21-34, 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. In fact, Mayfield has only thrown 1 interception since week 8. Since week 8, he's only thrown 1 interception. And this team also has the 3rd best rushing attack in the NFL. I have a lot of trust in Mayfield and his decision making right now. Cleveland's defense, they had 4 interceptions on the night. Not very hard when Big Ben's throwing 68 times, but still props to them. Really good defensive plays most of the time when it came to those interceptions. Their secondary, though, was still torched for 501 total passing yards and 4 touchdowns, something that needs to be tightened up. Cleveland also needs to get to Patrick Mahomes in their defensive line in terms of their pressure. It looks like Myles Garrett didn't practice on Wednesday either, but Denzel Ward wasn't on the injury report, so he should be good to go. That's very crucial for the Browns. That's their top cornerback, and when he was put on the COVID list before last game, that was a huge blow to them. But I think if you line up Denzel Ward against Travis Kelce, who is one of the top receiving leaders in the NFL this season, or Tyreek Hill, or anyone there, I think he's going to be able to win quite a few matchups against the Chiefs. Kansas City, they're coming off of their bye week. Really 2 weeks, because they sat all of their starters in week 17 in that loss against the Chargers. However, before that loss against the Chargers, their last 7 wins were within 7 points. The point margin was within 7 points. That was against the Panthers, the Raiders, the Buccaneers, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Saints, and the Falcons. Only 2 playoff teams there. And the Finns were a close playoff team. But they only won by less than 7 points against the Falcons, the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Panthers in the last 7 weeks before their loss to the Chargers in week 17. That's kind of off-putting. That's a concern for me. That makes me kind of wary of wanting to pick them in this game. Their offense, though, is electric. It can do so much. One of the biggest questions is going to be, how is this offense going to do after 2 weeks of a break? They have the most passing yards in the NFL in terms of regular season stats. They're tied for the 3rd most passing touchdowns in the NFL with 40, and they're tied for the 2nd least interceptions thrown with 7. It looks like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be available, as well as Le'Veon Bell, and that they need their top 2 running backs there, and they need a rushing game that is going to be explosive, because in terms of playoff teams, they had the least or second least rushing touchdowns in the league. Only Chicago had least or less rushing touchdowns than they did. In terms of defense, they're kind of middle of the pack in most defensive categories. They allow the fifth least completion percentage in the NFL with 62.7%, and they're tied for the fifth most interceptions with 16. This game, like I said, is a big question mark for me. Will the Chiefs be rusty after a 2-week break? Will the Chiefs' rush game be effective? Will the Chiefs' defense be able to stop a pretty powerful Browns offense that has been streaking in the last 4 or 5 weeks? I think Cleveland's going to come out of this with an early lead, 2, maybe even a 3 touchdown lead. But I'm not counting Mahomes and company out at all. And like I said, this prediction could be completely wrong. But I really think that the Browns, they're not going to get quote-unquote clapped, like Claypool said, following their loss. But I really think that it's going to be a pretty close game. I think Cleveland's going to put up a fight. I think there's going to be some missed field goals by Cody Parkey. I don't have a lot of faith in him, especially in Kansas City. But I think we're going to see him miss some big ones and leave some points on the field. And I think Kansas City is going to end up being able to come back in this one and win this one 42-37. That's a really hard prediction for me to make too. I really like the Browns. I really think that they are a great team. And I think they're going to be able to build off of this season. I don't think they need an AFC Championship game appearance to call this season a success. They are going to come out and they're going to put it to the defending champions. I just think Andy Reid and the Chiefs are going to be able to adjust and be able to come out of that game victorious. There you go. There you have it. I've got the AFC Championship game being the Bills visiting the Chiefs. It's been talked about for weeks, and I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to happen. I think these two teams are going to be able to pull it off, and we'll see a 1 seed versus a 2 seed in the AFC Championship game. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Instagram at Harvey's Huddle or on Twitter at Harvey_Huddle. And I also got a YouTube channel. Check it out. Harvey's Huddle is the channel name. Enjoy this weekend. 4 games for you, Saturday and Sunday. Playoff football is some of the most exciting football, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Let your friends know about this podcast. Friends and family, share it around. I really think that we do a good job here, and yeah, I'd appreciate it if you let people know that you thought I did a good job. Let's see if we can go 10-0 this week. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Jackson Harvey. This has been Harvey's Huddle. Take care.